Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Joe. Welcome back to another fucking video. It's Anything Goes with Joe, the podcast where we not only talk about anything and everything, but we aim to change perspectives and opinions and on people with disabilities. So, if you see me looking over here a lot, it's because I have my notes right here. I'm kind of just using that to reflect every time I, come up with a different topic or subject. So, with that being said, it's another video, man. This is the first video that I did with kind of like by myself, you know what I'm saying, face to face. So I'm super excited for that. This was gonna be a little bit different, guys. This was gonna be about my life, something that you guys have been waiting for a really long time. So I'm happy to finally be able to do it. I apologize if the setup isn't that good. I try to do it, I try to make it like at least a little bit decent, but it is what it is. We're gonna rock with it for as long as we can, though, for sure. But with that being said, let's get right into it, man. My name is Joe. But my full name is Joseph, but most people call me Joe. I'm 24 years old. I was born in Covina, you feel me? I lived a lot of my life in Chino Hills, and then kind of branched out from there. In terms of who I am as a person, though, I am a person with a disability known as cerebral palsy, which is a cognitive disorder that affects the muscle tone, posture, and movement of an individual. But the thing is, the thing that people don't understand, though, it's caused by an abnormal brain development before birth. And I never really understood what that really meant, but like going back and looking at it, there's many different forms of what it is that I have. So it's like what I like to think is like the minimal case of it. I know, like, because I'm in a wheelchair, people think it's like severe, but honestly, I'm able to do a lot for myself compared to other people with cerebral palsy. They have a lot more like tough challenges that they face throughout the day or just, daily. So it's important that I take notice of what it is that how much freedom that I have and what it is that I'm able to do for myself, because not a lot of people get that. In terms of like a retrospect, in terms of like percentage, I would say that I'm probably about, I would say 90% independent. You know what I'm saying? There is a couple of things that I still need help with and stuff like that, but for the most part, I pretty much do everything on my own. I bathe myself, I clothe myself, I feed myself. I pretty much literally do everything almost damn near independent. But yeah, I mean, that's just, again, in terms of having a disability and kind of like accepting it or like coming to terms with it, it was fairly easy for me because growing up, I had a good support system. You know what I'm saying? Like my brothers and sisters played a big role in that, making sure that I felt comfortable and making sure that I was involved in a lot of different activities that they were doing and stuff like that. They never really excluded me from any other challenges that they had. We've done a lot together. We have so many memories in terms of getting in trouble and things of that nature because it's just like, we did it together, you know what I mean? So it made it fun. And like looking back on it now, we can laugh at it, but at the time it was definitely pretty bad. Just to give you guys kind of like a glimpse. So we not only put a mattress, like our mattress, on the stairs and slid down with me on it, but we also had this like one situation where we thought we were home alone, because that was the case a lot of the time. Like growing up, we were like, I had my mom and I had my grandparents and stuff like that, but they were always out doing their own thing and kind of like, I guess living their best life or whatever, you know what I'm saying? While we were just stuck home, cooped up in the fucking house, So anyway, we thought one time we were home alone, and my brother, my oldest brother, thought it was the greatest idea to go ahead and play baseball with condiments, meaning like ranch, ketchup, barbecue sauce, all that, the whole nine. And he was using a tortilla roller, and I'm sitting there on the floor. I'm probably like 10 at the time, or maybe like 9 or 8, somewhere around there. And I'm sitting on the floor and I'm in the fridge passing him the stuff as he's slamming it across the fucking the house. And again, we thought we were home alone. Well, basically what happened was my uncle walked into the door, bro, and he was like, what's going on? Because I guess he forgot his lunch, so he came back to the house, and we heard the key turning on the fucking door. We were just like, all of us were like, fuck, this is bad. This is really, really bad. Because he was like, he lived with us, and he was probably like our only like way of, what do you say, like discipline, like kind of like You know, he was the only person that was building structure inside the household. So when he would get upset, we all knew, because we knew that we were in for an ass whooping. Even with me being in a chair, that didn't stop anybody, which I love, because I feel like I literally got to be able to experience that during that time. So I was able to appreciate it more now when I'm older, even if like the situation wasn't always the best. However, in this particular situation now, I didn't get the repercussions of it. Like, I remember, I think what happened was he came in, he saw me covered head to toe with fucking just ranch and barbecue sauce. It was a fucking mess, dude. And so anyway, I think what happened was he ended up going to work at that same time, because he was already late. He had came back for his lunch. So he came back home, he opens the door, he sees me covered head to toe, and then I think he just like said something and then walked out because he had to go to work. Came back that night though and was like letting everybody have it, just full on ass whoopings for everybody. And it was just so crazy. Like, I remember that memory like very vividly. That was one of like the one time that like we knew it was really bad. Like it got really bad, you know. But it was like, again, these are all situations that we can look back on now and like laugh about and stuff, and just kind of like appreciate the moment, I think. But man, I'm telling you, like, my siblings really never like put that boundary on me. They never really set that limit for me. So I felt like growing up that really helped me, because I never really felt like there was no ceiling. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just felt like I could do whatever as long as I knew how to work around it, you know? But another thing too, like in terms of my disability itself, I never really knew that I had a disability up until I was in like middle school. That's when because that's when the police started and all that jazz. So then like it was different at that point, you know? I was like a lot more insecure and things. But even at that level, like even at that moment in my life, I still didn't let it like deter me. I did have a lot of questions. I was very curious as to what, you know, my disability was, but it didn't like make me feel like less of a person. And I think that a big part of that was because of my upbringing, you know, again, because they never let me feel that way. They never excluded me from anything. So I just always felt like I was normal, you know what I mean? I just had a new way of like doing things, you know, but that was it. And so with that being said, like I think being disabled is great, but I think it's great because that's all I know. You know what I'm saying? Like there's some people that are disabled, that become disabled, that were injured, you know what I'm saying? And now they have a new different like perspective of life. So it's like harder for them to accept it, you know? For me, being disabled is something that I've always known. Like that's all I've ever known throughout my whole life. So I never knew any other perspective other than that. So I think that's why it was a little bit easier for me to come to terms with it. So I say that like again, I'm only saying my perspective, and I say it very loosely just because I know that not only A, are there other disabilities, but B, other people have their own perspective of what it is that they go through. I've been around a lot of different people that have many different diagnoses other than my own. So I kind of get a little glimpse of what it is to actually go through something like that, and like, you know, see somebody go through something else. I've been around patients with spina bifida. I've been around patients with muscular dystrophy, autism, the whole nine really. And, you know, each disability, what I've learned throughout the course of just being around different people is like each indifference or disability, however you want to see it, comes with their own set of struggles, with their own set of like things. And I think that this is kind of like my way of not only being relatable, but also in terms of, you know, just helping people that have the same diagnosis as me or something similar, like come to terms with it. Not only that, but, you know, find new ways to deal with it, because I know that for me it was kind of hard, because even though I had the support system that I had growing up, it was still kind of hard just because I didn't really know A, what my disability was, and B, I didn't really know like what came with it, you know. So now that I'm older and I've learned a lot and things of that nature, I feel like this could be the perfect opportunity to share that. But, you know, so that's what this is, you know. Also too, I want to say that, you know, growing up with a disability is one thing, right? But growing up without the proper like tools, meaning like parents and stuff, because that was hard in itself. You know what I'm saying? Like that was very hard, because my mom was there as a mother, but in the same sense, and I say this very like respectfully, because I'm not trying to make her out as like a bad person. It's not what I'm trying to do, but she didn't really fill that motherly role for me and for my siblings. I know it wasn't just for me, but more for my like siblings and stuff. I think it was more like straining to me though, because it's like you have a kid with a disability that nobody knows how to deal with. My siblings didn't know how to help me. I didn't know how to help myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was just like thrown on us all at one time, and we were just trying to figure it out, you know? But I feel like that's where she kind of like lacked, and I don't blame her because of the on one end, like, yes, she did. There was a lot that she didn't do, but at the same time, you have to understand that this is a woman of 6 kids that started having kids at such a young age. So it's like, how do you really deal with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's levels to being a parent. You know, there's levels to trying to figure out how to do the right thing or what the right thing actually is. You know, we don't know what that is. You know, we just kind of go with like at the way, like at the, you know, we just kind of go with the times, I think, you know what I mean? I think that's what I'm trying to say. So it's like, I can't really falter for that. But I think that, you know, throughout that, it not only made me a better person, but it also helped me understand what it's like to have to go through things on my own, you know? I did have my grandma and stuff and my grandparents, but they like, and they were a steady motherly figure to me and to my siblings, but I wasn't really at the age to really have these type of conversations with them at the time. So now that I'm older, they're no longer here. So it's like, I can't go back and like have these conversations with them. So it kind of makes it a little tough, but at the same time, I feel like they taught me enough to know that, okay, like this is what you do, or this is what to prepare for, and this is how to like get through it. Like one of the people that was really, you know, that person for me and for the rest of my siblings is my older brother. Actually, my older brother, he is a few years older than me. Not like, it's not drastic, but it is there. Like the difference is there. And so it's like, but he was like the one person that was like consistent in all of our lives. So he kind of like shaped us into who we were in terms of like, you know, as little kids, you know, and then whatever we did growing up was whatever we did, however we went on from there was up to us, you know, which I respect highly. I think he did an amazing job for what it was that, for what it was that he provided. Again, it wasn't up to his, you know, it wasn't his responsibility to do so, but I think the fact that he took the time to really do that and kind of like dedicate the time to make sure that we kind of at least had a sense of what it was that we needed to do to survive, I think that that's what makes it me more appreciative than anything towards him and anybody else that played a role in that, you know. So it's like going forward, you know, like as I said, you know, I'm not shaming my mom for not being there as a person, because again, she went through her own things. But with that, we kind of had to grow up fast. We really had to like grow up fast. I remember being 8 years old and really having to take on the responsibility, like almost as an adult, you know what I'm saying? Like, because we had to look out for each other. It was just us. It was just me and my siblings, you know, just looking out for each other, trying to make way for, you know. So it was like there was really no chance of, or no time to really have like a childhood per se. A lot of the things that we did as a child weren't really in childhood, like, you know what I'm saying? It was just more of like, we just made the best of it, I guess, made the best of our situation. You know, I think that all my siblings really play a role in what it is that, you know, we are today, because again, you know, being that there wasn't that structure, we really had to just like bounce off of each other, as I said before. And the only reason why I bring that up so often is just because of the fact that, you know, when I got older, then I'll talk about this in a minute, but like everything changed when I got to like 15. And the reason why it changed was because that's when I got put into the system. And when I got put into the system, it was just me, my brother, and my little sister. I had another little sister that got placed in the system as well. And I feel like when that happened, you know, again, you go from seeing these people all the time, every single day, you know, from sun up to sundown, and being with them and creating that bond and kind of relying on them to help you get through certain things. And then you get placed in the system where now you're separated. So that was very tough in itself, for me, especially being, you know, a twin. You know, being separated from my twin was pretty tough because of the fact that, you know, we didn't really have like, we were always together. Like all we knew was like pretty much was each other, because I was close with all my siblings, but when it came to my twin, it was just like we never really were apart, you know what I'm saying? And if we were apart, we always found a way to come back together that night, you know what I'm saying, before we would go to sleep or something. So the first couple months of being in the system was actually pretty rough because, you know, we didn't have each other for that first time in our whole life. We didn't have each other to go back to, so that was pretty tough. And I remember, having multiple conversations with my siblings because I had called them. I made it a point to call them at least like once a week. You know what I mean? Just check in. But it was like, even at that, you can kind of see kind of like the connection kind of like separating, pulling away because everybody was just kind of dealing with their own things and trying to just get through it. More importantly, so that eventually just continued to happen, and so it reached a point, like, I feel like even now, comparing to how we were when we were little versus how we are now, I feel like we didn't really, like, we're trying to get back to that point, I think, but I think it's just like a little bit harder because we're older now, you know what I mean, and like we don't really know each other as good as we knew each other when we were little, you know what I'm saying? And there's no excuse, because at the end of the day, I'm still making the effort to try to like bring that vibe back and try to like, create something again. But it's like, at the same time, I feel like we're all at a point in our life where it's just like we're doing something different now. And not to say that we don't talk every day. We do. We talk as much as possible. We have group chats and things, but like just the vibe that we had when we were little, we just evolved. We evolved, and it was like, it's one of those things that like either you grow together or you have to grow individually. And I think that we grew together until we ended up growing individually in our own way, and so it's like it's no one's fault for that. But I think the whole reason behind that wasn't really necessary. Like, so just to kind of like backtrack a little bit and give you a little bit more detail, we had CPS involved in our life for a while. It was like the most like vividly I remember them being a part of our life was probably like when I was 8 years old. A lot happened during that time. There was so much that happened within that time, so I had to really kind of like just buckle down and, like I said, just grow up fast. And CPS was involved because of the fact that we didn't really have much to our name. Like, yeah, we had like a house and things, and we had a stable foundation, but at the same time, it was like, I'm not gonna lie, we were getting money from the county and stuff because of my disabilities and things. But I mean, I hate to say it like this because it sounds so bad, but a lot of the money that we were getting, and I say we as in me and my siblings, like, I wasn't seeing, we weren't seeing any of it, you know what I'm saying? Like, we weren't getting new clothes, you know what I'm saying? Like, we would get new clothes, but it was like through our aunts or through our grandma, you know what I'm saying? Like, they were the ones like providing us our clothes for the most part, from what I know. Of course, there could be two sides to the story, and I'm well okay with that. But the thing is, from what I've seen, it was just usually my grandma and my aunts kind of putting the money together to be able to get us new clothes and stuff. So anyway, like, and that it was like that for the longest time. Like, we literally, that's how it was for a couple of years, and then my grandma passed away, and we kind of like lost everything. I think at that point, that was back in 2008. If I'm correct, that was like around 2008. And so it was like, when that happened, again, we're all just trying to grasp onto the situation, and then boom, everything falls apart. Now we're living, from hotel to hotel to hotel. We're literally in limbo of trying to just figure out how to survive. We're literally just trying to survive to the next month or to the next week, So it's like, that in itself put a strain on us, because it's like, we're still bringing in that money, right? We're still, we're making it happen. But now it's a little bit less because some of the people that were getting money before, they weren't getting money anymore. So it was just like me, my brother, and I think like maybe a sister or two, you know what I'm saying, that was getting like money to be able to support us. And so it's like, we pretty much just got down to the science of just having enough to be able to cover like that week. And then the next week was something different and different and different, But it's just like, it didn't have to get to that point, but it did. And I think I could say it, I could say it more like comfortably now, that I don't blame my mom entirely, but I just wish that she made more better decisions in terms of, how that money was being spent. Because honestly, if I'm keeping it a buck with y'all, like, I was bringing in enough money alone to be able to cover a lot of what it was that we needed. So it's like, when you put that into perspective and you look at where we were at, it was just like, she had everything she needed in terms of clothes and everything else. And then we were just kind of left like there. You know what I'm saying? And again, this isn't to talk shit by any way. I love my mom. I respect my mom. I'm trying to build a better connection with her to this day, but I think that I feel like I've gotten past that, like past this, you know, like I've gotten past all the hurt and hatred and all that jazz. Again, there was really no room for hatred because, again, at the end of the day, regardless, she's still my mother and I love her to death. But it was just like I still had to like process the situation and process the way that it made me feel. So with that, it did come with some resentment, but I think at the end of the day, I'm better than that. Like I'm bigger than that to hold somebody than to hold somebody accountable for something that they weren't really ready to do yet. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't really know how to deal with the general. But you know, I say all that to say that, you know, that was kind of what brought us into the system because, you know, we did end up getting a place shortly after, you know, after being, you know, from hotel to hotel. But when we got the place, it was like we still didn't really have the stuff that we needed. We were basically in the same situation. The only difference is instead of living week by week, it was month to month. But we didn't have enough money to really provide for the, you know, anything else other than the roof over our head. You know what I'm saying? So it was like we were still trying to go to school at this time. It was me and my brother more than anything, and we were still trying to go to school at the time. And what made it worse is just because we were just going to school in the same clothes, at the same, you know what I mean, in the same way every week. So it was like people started to catch on to that, and then that's when teachers like started to ask questions and stuff. So it was really just like a bad situation all around. But it was a situation that I feel no matter how hard we tried to avoid it, unless we won the lottery, that was the only way we were gonna be in a better standing. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like it was inevitable at one point. But does it make it right? Does it make it, you know, proper for the how everything happened? But and the answer is no. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it proper. But that's just the way things went. You know. Long story short, we basically, you know, we're coming home from school. And at this time, CPS is already back in our life again because when I was 8, up until the time I was 8, like we had got rid of them. We were in good standing for the most part. And then, you know, we ended up going to San Bernardino, and then that's when things kind of started to escalate again. And so then they were in our life already at this point for like a few months. Like it was like maybe like 6 months already, you know. And they didn't see any progress being made basically, and so they ended up just pulling us entirely from the house, and it was me, my brother, and my sister. As tough as it was in the like, you know, during the time, it needed to happen because I feel like it, you know, that was the only way things were gonna get better between not necessarily better because it didn't get better after that, but it's just like that was the only way things were gonna click to where what I would hope would be my mom actually realizing that shit, you know, like we fucked up, you know what I mean? And so it's like, needed to happen though because, you know, we weren't gonna grow we weren't gonna grow outside of that. Like there was no room for growth while being there. So I just knew that like that had to happen anyway. So that happens. We get separated for the first time in a long time. Well, forever. And like overall, we get separated for the first time in, you know, forever. So, so the first couple months was actually pretty rough. I remember getting to the foster home and just not really liking my foster parents at the time. And like we really didn't like click at all by any means. I just felt like it was just always like an opportunity to get money because that's just like, I don't know, like, again, I think it goes back to my mom and that situation because I feel like, you know, she kind of made it that way for me. So like anybody else that tried to be like a provider for me, I just always felt like there was something attached to it. Like even today, it still affects me in some way because I always feel like anybody that ever offers to help me, it's always just for something, you know? So it's like, that was my approach, you know, going into the foster system. Like I just thought that the lady wanted something from me, so I just didn't really care to build that foundation with her, you know. And lo and behold, you know, I was there for about a year, and it wasn't until the end of me being there that I actually started to get close with them. They actually went as far as wanting to adopt me, but it just didn't work out like that because I wanted to be closer to my brother because when we got placed into the system, we weren't together. Like we weren't placed together. So my only goal at the time was just making sure that I was there for him if he ever needed me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I wanted to be as close to him as possible. So I was willing to give everything up. And that's basically what happened, man. Like I got into the, I went to that school, or I went to, cause I was placed out in San Diego. So I went out there and I was going to school and I was doing all that stuff. And I got the call that my regional worker had found another place for me that was closer to my brother. And so that we could be together. So I literally immediately just dropped everything and was like, yo, let's do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, without any question, I was just like, let's do this, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to be closer to him and kind of, do whatever I can for him. Because I knew it was tough on both of us, you know what I mean? But more so for him, because it's like he knew where I was at and things, but he didn't really know much else than that. Because like my social worker wasn't really in good contact, and then like I didn't have a phone or anything like that to really contact him on a regular basis. But so it just became very straining during that time, and I just felt like being close to him was better than being apart from him. So I did what I had to do. I made the move, went out to Chino, and I was there for a couple, I think it was like 2 years, and then that's when I got the call again. But being in the situation with Chino was so different from the group home, because so different from the foster home, because that was a group home that I went into after that. Like when I went into Chino, I went into a group home, and that was like different for me because I didn't really know what the heck that even was. I never heard of it before. They broke it down to me like in a science as to like what it was and stuff, but I still didn't understand it. I was still only like 16, so I couldn't really grasp what it was that was happening. I just knew that I had to coordinate with it properly, and I say all that to say that, a long story short, that group home, it was a level 5 facility. So like it was a lot of people that were, or no, I don't think this one was a level 5. Sorry, but it was a facility that was that obtained a lot of people that were like bedridden and had like more severe disabilities than what I had. I knew it wasn't the place for me, you know what I'm saying? And I think everybody that came in contact with me knew that it wasn't the place for me. But I want to take the time to say that I do respect every individual that ever been like a help to me. They really, there's a couple people, if I named all of them, I would literally be here for forever, but there were so many people in that time of my life that really gave me that opportunity to build and grow and like learn new things, and they were willing to teach me how to get through certain things, and they pushed me to do good in school, and I was, for like the first time in a long time I was actually doing good in school and everything, because I had that support system that I needed. So even though that place wasn't for me, they did what they had to do to make sure that I was able to kind of get back on track and basically like, live my life again, really, as crazy as it sounds. But so I owe a lot to them. Shout out to them for that. I really wish I could say names, but because of legality reasons, I'd rather not. Yeah, so I go from there, and I get the call again, like, oh, we found another place, for that's closer to your brother. And at this time, we were already talking about the idea that his foster mom at the time, because he got placed in a foster home too, and he was there the whole time I'm moving around and stuff like that. He was in one spot, so he was able to adapt to the situation a lot better and kind of just get a better grasp on what it was that was going on. Not to say that his experience was PG either, because I know he went through his own shit, but that's his story to tell, you know what I mean, for like later, but I do think that it was pretty tough. It was a pretty tough situation in general, I think. But above all that, I think, like I said, I got the call and I was just like, hey, you know what, let's do it. They said that it was somewhere that was closer to him. So I said, okay, without any question again, I dropped everything and I did it again, because I really felt like I needed to be there for him at the time. I genuinely I just got that feeling. And maybe it was just a feeling that that I, kind of like mistaken or whatever, but I think that in the long run, I think it showed me that I did need to be there in some way, shape, or form. So I ended up doing that. I ended up making the move. They told me that they were, that the mom was gonna get, the proper classes to be able to take care of me and stuff. So I'm on board. At this point, they telling me everything I want to hear. So I said, okay, bet. Let's do it. I make the move. I make it happen. And I'm there at the group home. I was only supposed to be there for a couple months. And I ended up being there for like 6 years, you know what I'm saying? And within that 6 years, I've seen a lot, you know what I mean? A lot of things happen, and it was kind of like a more rough transition to say the very least. I don't want to go into too much detail because, again, legality reasons, but yeah, I just think that it was very tough. This one was this one that I got placed into, you know, after the one in Chino. This one was the level 5 facility, and this one had people that had many different types of mental delays and just like things of that nature, like that I really didn't belong there by any means, like, you know, because they had like a lot of them had like bipolar disorder. They had like just anger issues. They had like some of them had we had one guy that was like very like, I don't know if he was older, it was just like his disability that made him look older, but he would literally soil himself all the time, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's just like I'm in a space where not only that I don't belong, but it's like there's so many things going on around me that I really didn't have control over. So it was really like the turning point of my whole experience being in the system and stuff. And even at that place, as bad as it was, there was still people that were there that were really good people, and I'll respect them throughout my whole entire life, and I owe a lot to them. But there was also, in the same amount of good people that there was also the same amount of bad people, if not more. And I've seen a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like with that, people would just come to work to fight. Really, that's pretty much what it was. Like it felt like almost as like a prison, really. You know what I mean? And I hate to be the one to like over exaggerate things because I don't like to do that. But that's kind of the feeling that I got from it. And everybody else that came in contact with the group home, they would say the same thing. It was literally just like from sun up to sundown. It was just like we had to abide by so many different things, and so it was just like not only was there no room for error, but there was no room to do anything for ourselves. There was no way that we could get outside of that setting unless we went to school. You know what I'm saying? So school like was literally my only factor when with dealing with the situation. There was like my only like outlet. You know what I mean? So it was tough because at the time I didn't really want to go to school because I had already been to a lot of different schools in itself, like throughout the course of my lifetime. So I really didn't want to really go to school anymore, but I knew that was the only way to get out of that situation, even if it was for a couple of hours, you know? So it's like, yeah, man, that group home really, it did what it had to do for me in terms of put things into perspective for me, how valuable, like, the people that you have around you are and how valuable pretty much life is, man. Really, like, you know, fortunately enough, I was able to get out of that situation, but a lot of the people that I've, you know, pretty much grew up within, you know, inside that group home, they had to stay there. And so it's like, looking back on it, like, yeah, I'm happy that I'm out of there, but at the same time, it's like knowing that there's people there that still, you know what I'm saying, might be going through the same thing that I was going through. That's what makes it kind of tough to deal with. But for my own health reasons, like literally, like my literal mental health was just so bad because I was just in such a bad state constantly, you know. And it's just like, I hate to say it like that because it sounds like I'm just throwing a pity party, but I'm on it. Like, this is the first time I've ever been open about that situation in a long time because I always felt like I never really wanted to portray that image towards anybody or to kind of give anybody my troubles. But it was a very, very rough time, to say the very least. And you know, even to today, even in my current state today, like you know, there's still things that are hard for me to kind of like get over, or like, you know, kind of like kind of grasp like the terms, I guess. But I remember, like, to put it into perspective, I remember, like, because I live right now I live with my in-laws, which I think that's the proper way to do it. It's my brother's girlfriend's parents, so I don't know what that title is. I think it's in-laws, but I could be wrong. Anyways, so when I first came here, I remember like having this incident where I was going to go get water, and over there, like, past a certain time, you can't go out, like in the group home, like past a certain time you can't go out of your room to get like whatever, because they call it like I don't know what it was called. It was like night shift or something like that. So like they weren't really too fond of like people coming out of their rooms and stuff, so they would often just tell us to like go back to the room. And I remember I came here, like it was like my second month, or probably first official month, maybe second month. I was coming out of my room to get water, and I noticed that my mother-in-law was in the kitchen, and I was like scared to go in the kitchen because I didn't want to I felt like I was gonna get in trouble, but that was because of the mindset that I had, like from the previous situation that I was in. And so like I never really talked about that either. You know what I'm saying? Like she seen me, and I was just like I didn't say anything. I didn't know what the heck to say. Like I was just kind of like taken back of the situation. And so yeah, it was just like one of those things where it really just kind of like messed me up for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And like now it's a little bit different because I've built the foundation and I've built the trust and friendship and everything. But it's like even now I still can't think that. And it's messed up to say because I don't hold this against them. But as I said earlier, you know, with the vibe of always just only being around because of what I can provide, I felt that way coming into this. And I talked about it a little bit to them, but I never really like went into greater detail. But I did talk about how, you know, I just felt like it wasn't really like a stable place. It was just more of like something they were providing because of the fact that it was that what they were getting in return. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was pretty tough for me for a while to really kind of like grasp that it wasn't like that. But yeah, so and that was just one of the things that I kind of like dealt with though while being there. Like I literally was pretty much had to really know my surroundings when it came to what it was that I was able to do and what it was that I wasn't able to do, just because like again I couldn't, like I didn't know the extent, you know what I mean, of what it was that I was able to do. So and then another thing too, like and this kind of goes back to the group home. Like I'm gonna switch gears a little bit to go back to give you more of a perspective, as if that wasn't enough of like, you know, kind of like again it was a legitimate, basically a prison at that point, at that group home. And to give you more of a perspective, there was a situation where there was a guy, he had like a brain like a delay, like a brain delay. He had I don't know what his exact diagnosis was, but this guy, he was a kind of a risk to himself because he would like try to harm himself and stuff like that. So in this situation, I kind of get it, but at the same time, I feel like it was a little bit of overkill. Basically, one of the same kid that I'm talking about, he had a bad day. He had like a bad morning or whatever, and he was getting ready to go to school, and he was waiting for the transportation to pick him up. And I guess during that time, one of the leads at the house kind of got under his skin, and so the kid decided that he was going to take it upon himself to go and run outside. They call it AWOL. So he decided he was going to go AWOL. And the lead staff on the floor at the time, instead of him handling the situation the way he should have handled the situation by just, you know, if you had to put him in like a little chokehold or something, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because these kids, again, it's a level 5 facility for a reason, because these kids are like, they're pretty crazy. They I've seen some crazy stuff. But so in on one hand, I see why his reaction was the way his reaction was, but in the same sentence, it's like I feel like that could have been held, you know, like dealt with a lot better. But anyway, long story short, kid goes to run outside. The guy sees him, and he goes, and instead of him like stopping him or like, you know, like holding him back, he pushes him, and the guy goes through the wall, and you see like this big old crater of just like, you know, of just like the shit, like the material that the wall's made out of, the drywall, I think it is. So it was just like, yo, it's crazy. Like, and I seen him and he seen me. I didn't see the whole situation like unfold, but I did hear a lot of it because I was in my room. I was getting ready to go to school myself, and I came out of my room because I heard the commotion. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, the guy on the floor, you know, the lead staff. He looked at me, and I looked at him, and he knew he fucked up. He knew he fucked up. The look he gave me said it all. Yeah, he didn't even have to say anything. He just knew he fucked up. And yeah, sure, like that. I think like that day or the next day, he was let go and permanently, and he hadn't been back since. But it was just crazy because like, saying that type of stuff, it just made you feel like you couldn't do anything wrong. Because if you did, then you would be that guy that was going through the fucking wall. Like, it's just crazy the way that they had that shit operated. And a lot of the like trauma, I guess, that I had to endure while being there, I think was not worth the amount of progress that I made either. You know, like I feel like I don't know. I feel like it was just a bad situation. And like I said, even though I'm glad to be out of there now, I still feel like I kind of left the people, you know, the other people there, and that's what makes me feel kind of like bad about it, you know. But yeah, anyway, guys, so that's kind of like my story. That's just to give you like kind of a glimpse of what it is that I went through, kind of like how I got through it and things of that nature. But I do have a couple of questions here that I want to close out with. And these are questions brought to you by you guys. If you guys want to be part of the questionnaire, just make sure to leave a comment down below, and also follow my pages. You know what I'm saying, to be more active and involved in what it is that I do. And if you guys want to be a part of the next video, you know, always make sure to just remain active. So you can also follow my links at Anything Goes with Joe. That's the Instagram, and then the TikTok as well is also Anything Goes with Joe, but it's anything goes with .joe. So it's kind of complicated, but you can also keep up there as well. You can see kind of like the questions that I answer. These questions in particular, there's a total of 3 of them. One of them is brought to you by Jojo, and she says, what is the worst ableism encounter you've seen or had to like that you've encountered? And for that, I would say, like, I never really had to deal with that entirely. I think that I've been treated fair for the most part. I will say though that there has been a couple situations in terms of like my wheelchair being an issue for some of the people. Like, I use Lyft a lot, or like public transport. So sometimes like they don't always accommodate me appropriately. So that can be like one of the examples, I guess. Sorry, I keep moving, guys. It's just because the camera keeps going down, so I have to constantly fix it. But yeah. So anyways, a lot of the only issues that I've ever experienced was the transportation issue. Like that was kind of like a problem, because a lot of the people wouldn't want to take the chairs and stuff like that. So there was that. But in terms of what I like seen somebody else go through, it was kind of the same situation, but this one was a little bit different. So the guy goes, and I posted it on my story for those of you that didn't see it, but it was a recent story that happened to somebody else. So the dude orders an Uber, and the guy, it's an Uber XL, mind you, so you know you have to pay extra to get that Uber in general. And so you pay extra to get that Uber, and it's supposed to have more space to accommodate you and whoever you decide to bring, as well as your chair or whatever. So the dude does that, and the guy agrees to pick him up. He goes over there, he picks him up, and he says that he can't take him anywhere because he doesn't want to deal with a chair. And it's so messed up, because it's like the guy ordered the Uber XL for that reason, to be able to accommodate for his chair. Because when you order the XLs, it's a bigger vehicle. It's usually it's typically like a SUV or some sort. So you know, obviously they're equipped to do that. But the guy was just being an outright dick and didn't want to do that. Like, he didn't want to accommodate them. So he basically left them, you know what I'm saying? But then try to blame it on them as if it was their fault. So that was one of the encounters that I encountered with somebody else. And the reason why I resonated with that one is because, again, I dealt with that myself. Again, I was, you know, in the same situation. I was getting ready to take a lift. I was going to go to school. And this guy he comes all the way over there. He didn't communicate with me not once until he got here. And he was like, I go out there and I'm like, okay, this is the situation. And I'm trying to tell him, you know, how to break down the chair and everything. And he goes and he's like, oh, I can't take you because I don't want to put the chair in my car. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, you know, you come all the way out here. I wait this whole time, you know what I mean? Like, and waiting for a ride at this time isn't really that easy, because it takes a little while to get the ride, you know, to get somebody to come out here. So he goes and he says that. He's like, oh, I don't want to take the chair or whatever. So I'm like, okay, you know, whatever. Like, I couldn't do anything about it, because, like, as much as I wanted to be mad at him, I couldn't, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, he signed up for this, but at the same time he kind of didn't, because like, you know, he's just trying to provide the service to people that can use it. But so anyway, he ends up leaving, and I have to wait like a whole another like 2 hours just to get one ride to go from here, from where I live, to go to school. So that was pretty tough in itself, and I was like very like, I wasn't really defeated, but I did feel some type of way. I'm not gonna lie, because I was like, well, you know what I mean? Like, why couldn't he just take the chair? But at the same time, it's like, they don't sign up to get their car dirty or anything like that. But it is a service that, you know, they do sign up to take people. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of a give and take type of situation. But that was just one of the experiences. I've had multiple experiences like that. Another one was kind of crazy because there was a bus that takes you from point A to point B. So like, if you're coming from, I don't know, Fontana, and you want to go to Vegas, they should be able to accommodate that for you. It's like, oh, it's a literal bus that would pick you up from like a certain, you know, destination that they have their own like stops, you know. So all you got to do is go to the stop, get on the bus, and then they'll take you wherever you want to go. Well, this bus in particular, and I'm gonna say the company name because, you know, y'all need to know for next time you guys try to travel, or maybe you guys have a similar story. But the name of the company is called Flixbus, and Flixbus is basically a company that, again, provides transportation for people that want to go from point A to point B. However, for me, I looked at it specifically because it says that it was able to accommodate people in wheelchairs. So I go ahead and I take the opportunity to book it because I'm trying to see one of my friends that's passed away actually recently. But I was trying to see him, you know, because I hadn't seen him in a long time. So anyway, I go to order the services and everything like that, and I'm like, okay, you know, this is what it is. And they're like, okay, we can accommodate your chair because we have a lift, like we have a ramp. So I go over there and do the whole 9, and I'm waiting for the bus, and I get to the spot, and they have the ramp, but the ramp doesn't work. So I'm sitting there, and they're like, oh, well, we can't take you because the ramp doesn't work. And I'm sitting there like, what the heck, you know what I mean? Because I'm just trying to go. At this point, like, I've already been waiting there for like 2 hours, you know what I mean? I wanted to just get up and go. And so he's like, oh, we're not able to take you because the lift doesn't work. And I'm like, but on your app, on the website, it says you guys have a accessible ramp, you know? So we were just going back and forth or whatever. And then luckily that time there was a guy that was getting on the bus, and I don't know where he was going, but he was like, I'll pick him up and I'll take him, I'll put him on the bus. But you can't tell him that he can't come on the bus. So you can't tell him that you're not going to take him because it's something that you fucked up on. You know what I mean? And I respected that guy to the fullest because he literally let him have it. He was like, I'll pick him up and put him on the bus, but you're not going to tell him that he can't come, because that's, at the end of the day, that's your guys' responsibility. You guys should have the proper equipment to make sure that he can ride the bus without having these complications. So that's what he did. He picks me up, puts me on the bus, and we fold the chair up and everything, and we go. We take off. I didn't make it an issue at this point. You know, I kind of just let it be for what it was. I didn't really like try to make it a bigger situation. So I get there and I do my thing, and then, but I go over there to go do it again. I go to take that same service again because I was like, okay, maybe, you know, I called them. I called them. I called them the night before, or it was like a couple days before, and I was like, hey, just curious, you know, I'm in a wheelchair. Did you guys end up having to fix, like, did you happen to fix the lift situation? Because I know last time I went, it was a problem. And they were like, yeah, you know, the guy told me straight up and down. He was like, yeah, we fixed the situation. You should be good to go, boss. And, you know, just tell me when your trip is. And I was like, okay, it's on this day. I think it was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday, or maybe like a Thursday. I don't know. But it was like at the end of the week. He's like, okay, I got you, don't trip. Like when the bus comes, they're gonna have the lift and everything. You're gonna be good to go. So I buy the ticket. The ticket's like $5, so I wasn't really tripping. It was like $5 or something like that. So I was like, okay, it's not bad at all. I'll do it. I'll take it. So I get there. The same thing happens, bro. The same thing happens where it's like he goes to put the thing down, and he's like, oh, the ramp doesn't work. I'm coming from a good distance, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm coming from a good distance to get to this point to be able to take the service. So not only am I going out of my way, but I get there, I'm waiting there for an hour to 2 hours just for the same dude to tell me that I can't take the bus. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing broke. So I had to come all the way back to the house and not even be able to see like my friend or do what I had to do. So that was pretty tough. Those were the 2 times, like, well, amongst the 2 times that I really experienced something like that. But especially if you tell me like, hey, you know what I'm saying? We got the proper tools, we got the proper equipment, like just come on through. Okay, bet. And then you do that, you get to that point, you go all the way out there to get to that, you know, get that service, and then they just turn you away. Like, what the, like, make that make sense, man. And shout out to my sister-in-law. She actually let him have it. She took to Twitter and yeah, she literally like wrote this long ass paragraph of just like, how could you be so like ignorant to the fact that there's people that ride your bus that are disabled, and you say you have the proper, you know, equipment and stuff like that, but you don't, because we get there and we wait and you don't have nothing. She was just PO'd. She was probably more PO'd than me, because like when those type of situations, I try to see all sides, so I don't really like to, you know, assume anything or kind of like be like the bearer of bad news or anything, or kind of be like conflict or, you know, stir up conflict. I kind of just let it be. But she took that offensive and she was like, nah, I'm fighting for you type shit. So she took to Twitter, and then my sister, one of my other sisters, also did the same thing. They ended up taking I think Facebook or something, and they were also going off on them as well. And they were like, no, Jogi, you can't let that happen. Like, you can't let that be a recurring situation, because like they're not gonna fix it. They're not gonna do better. You know what I'm saying? And I got where they were coming from, but I just didn't think that it was a big enough deal to like make a whole thing out of it. You know? But yeah, that was just basically like my whole experience with that. And shout out to them again for, you know, coming to my aid and coming to my defense more than anything to make sure that, you know, FlixBus was able to accommodate. And the only thing I got out of them was, oh well, the only thing I got out of them was what did they say? They were like, oh, well, we're sorry about the trip. We can accommodate you your money so you can use our service again for free. Why the hell am I going to want to do that again if the first 2 times that I tried to use your service, it was a no-go? You know what I mean? Like, that just makes no sense. I would be stupid to do it again, right? So that was dumb. I was like, what the heck? Like, that's crazy. But to wrap it up, my last 2 questions here come from, she says, what do you feel, wait, hold on, what? I think I wrote this wrong. It says, what you feel you have improved on since you became an adult. Okay, this is a great question. I think this is something that I really wanted to answer for the longest time. I think that, as I mentioned before, you know, because of the type of upbringing that I had to really like learn a lot for myself. But I think that one of the things that I improved on, you know, while growing up, was just my self-confidence. I feel like I'm a lot more confident as a person, especially with a person with a disability, because I'm gonna be honest with y'all, like when it comes to relationships, and I talked about this in an earlier episode as well, but one of the things about being disabled is that relationships are hard to come by, because people don't want to be with individuals that are disabled, because they don't want to have to take on that responsibility, which I respect it, but at the same time, it's like, we can't do anything about it as people, because we kind of just adapt to the situation. So if we can adapt to our situation, and you really care about us the way you care about us, why can't you adapt to the situation? You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing that wrong. And if I am, please let me know down in the comment section below. Let me know your take on it. But yeah, so anyway, one of the things that I've grown up like, or that I've learned to kind of like do better as an adult is my confidence. I feel like I've become more organized in terms of you know, holding myself accountable, holding myself reliable to certain things. I do, especially with this type of situation right here, because again, for those of you that don't know, I feel like I say this all the time, but this isn't my first time doing this. I've done this a total of 3 times. This is my 3rd time doing it. So you know, I really had to buckle down and hold myself accountable for these uploads and things of that nature. This one in particular was a little bit harder, because I really had to get a couple things cleared, because I especially making an episode like this, I didn't want to like make somebody feel a certain type of way or anything of that nature, because I come from a good place when making this episode. I just wanted to kind of give you guys my take as to what it was that I go through on the daily, or at least went through at the time. Anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much what the 2 of the characteristics that I improved on since being an adult which is again confidence and consistency. That's pretty much like my 2 things that I really try to like strive to be better at. And then there's another question that says, your influences growing up and the impact of being disabled, like the impact that being disabled had on you as a child. So first of all, I talked about this in an earlier episode too. When I talked about this, I talked about it influential wise, like, you know, with famous people and stuff. So with this, I can honestly say that there's so many people that have influenced me in my life to be a better version of myself, and not only that, but to just grow and evolve as a person. I think a couple of them would be my mother, my brothers and sisters, my from in-laws to like actual brothers and sisters. Another one would be one of them is calling me right now, oddly enough. But yeah, I'll get back to them in a minute. I see you though. I see you, family. And then another one I think would be like, well, again, there's a lot of the people in the group homes for sure were definitely people that I was influenced by. My twin brother also, you know, I have to give a separate, you know what I'm saying, like I put him in a separate category because he's my twin, he's my other half, he's my fucking right cheek, you know what I'm saying? So you know, but yeah, it's definitely them. Again, like I said, my in-laws are a huge part of why I do what I do. But more importantly, man, like just anybody that's ever been in my life has always been in my life for a reason. And I think that's what makes me more appreciative and grateful for anything that I've learned throughout the time. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know if I went into like, you know, enough detail, but if I didn't, feel free to just let me know and I'll make a TikTok to elaborate it a little bit better. But with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for making it this far into the video. If you did, make sure that if you liked it, make sure to please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and I'll make sure to be doing some more of these throughout the time. But until then, it's been your boy Joe, and again, I only made this video specifically for the purpose of to be able to be relatable, so that if anybody is going through what I'm going through right now or what I've been through, I can help themselves, you know what I mean, or help somebody else, you know. So with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning into this. I really think that this was a long time coming for sure. Yeah, again, if you guys have any suggestions for what I can do better, or if you guys want any topics covered in future videos, please make sure to leave them down below. Follow me on Instagram at Anything Goes with Joe. Make sure to tell a friend when you see this upload. And until next time, people, it's been your boy Joe, and I'm out. Peace.